All right. We have Newbie from Newbie The Ear Hustler on YouTube Conversations.
hmm
How
Thank
you
you for
doing?
having.
No problem. It's a pleasure having you. I saw your content was really dope, and I look
Thank,
forward to getting to know you.
yes, thank you.
All right, so let's get into it. So, where did you grow up at?
I grew up in the Bronx, Gun Hill Road area, Parkchester, and then I also grew up in Harlem and Riverton. Um, I've lived in many places. I've lived in Virginia. I've lived in California. Um, Not one to really stay one place too long. I get bored easily. So,
Okay. So, a lot of people, I know there's a lot of gentrification where everything is changing. So, people, they don't realize. I grew up in Brooklyn, New York, where everywhere you step was crack files. Everywhere. I mean, like everywhere. Kids in the park playing. Mom got to explain to you these you don't pick up because how was it growing up in the Bronx?
um, when I was younger, there was definitely the burning buildings. Um, I can distinctly remember being in school and looking, excuse me, outside the window and seeing burnt out buildings. And this was, excuse me, at the time I'd lived on Jackson Avenue,
Okay.
and it looked like a war zone, you
Mm.
know, and it was kind of scary. You just didn't know what to expect. As I got older and moved towards the Gun Hill Road area, the crack was a big deal. Yeah, so I think generally speaking, I'm a 70s baby. Um, my fun times were in the 80s and scary times were in the 80s. I feel like we're actually revisiting the 80s now. Like, I feel like there's a resurgence of craziness, people getting thrown on the train tracks and people getting
Yeah.
stabbed, and there's all these things that are happening that just don't make sense. And in the middle of a pandemic of all things. So I do recall a lot. We had a house where I lived in the Bronx. Um, and at that time, crack was just really emerging. And we had the local drug dealers, sticking the yellow envelopes of weed in our hedges and shit like that. Um, it was an interesting time.
Yeah, I mean, I grew up in the 80s, so 90s was like my prime childhood. And I think in the 90s was like the ending point of the crack era where the effects really took place. And now at my age in 2022, I'm dealing with, or we're dealing with the children that are born from the crack babies. And these teenagers are running wild. And the parents don't care because they are crack babies, you know? So when you look at people's behavior, it's a lot of me and you looking like, why don't you just work? But they're not stable mentally. If you know anyone, if you ever seen how crack a baby that's born addicted to drugs, their mind is wired different. So they say I think between the ages of 3 and 8, whatever they see during that time span, that's the rest of their life.
Those are their formative years.
Hmm.
So I think that, they become exposed to a little bit of everything, and what they absorb and how they absorb it is different for each child. So it can be a traumatic thing, it can be something that they just adjust to. Um, and what I will say is, you said something along the lines, and correct me, in terms of crack babies. Um, I'm not sure how old you are, but I will say that um, the people that sold the crack take as much responsibility as the person who smoked the crack.
Yeah.
And you have children that were born out of these situations, but they're not all crazy. I really think that, we were latchkey kids coming up. We were left to our own devices a lot of times. Sometimes we were taking care of siblings. Sometimes we were, doing a bunch of things. Um, so I'll attribute a lot of the craziness in these younger folks now, and I'm two generations probably removed from what I would consider teenagers. um, they're exposed to a whole different environment now.
Yeah, my nephew was born one of those babies, you
Hmm.
know, and thank God he came out like as a miracle, but it was very crucial, his upbringing environment. So um, yeah, his upbringing environment, and yeah, I don't want to act like I understand that world, because I've never been addicted. But it's very unfortunate. Also, very unfortunate is that I know in the Bronx, 17 people died, right, from the fire.
19.
19. Okay, nine were children, and yeah, that sounds very similar to on Prospect Avenue. There was another fire years ago, and I worked like a block from there. At
Mm.
that time, and it was just the worst. I've never, people running out naked and stuff like that because trying to get. It's crazy with a door, and that same thing that happened in Prospect. You heard about that a few years ago, Prospect
Hmm.
Avenue.
Hmm.
Yeah, that was because the door didn't close. One apartment burned the whole building.
Well, this was
And
due to space heaters.
Space Heater, it's the same thing. She didn't close. Whoever ran out didn't close the door. They
Yep.
left it open,
Yep.
and the building had 22 violations. So, the question also too is like, why does anyone need a space heater if you live in an apartment? They
Well,
didn't
I
have
mean,
heat.
listen, I tell you what, New York City apartments, and you know this because you're a native New Yorker. I live in a decent neighborhood, and my apartment is pretty big, but there's no insulation in the walls. So, you know, the walls are actually cold. Now they have steam heat and they have that, but it's cold in here. And the newfangled windows that they put up that are supposed to be like storm windows aren't sealed properly, so you can feel the draft. If I put a lighter up to the window, you can see the flame
It'll
flickering.
blow out. Wow.
Yeah. So I think it's a New York thing to a certain extent. Um, NYCHA housing, a lot of times government housing, 90% of it is like this: no heat, no hot water, and it's a shame. And there's going to be heads to roll on this.
I blame the living condition of New York City on us as the residents. I blame us because of the fact that everyone has a camera, everyone has a phone. So when I see even family members, they're on Instagram, social media, posting stuff. No, you should be posting those rats running around, right? Post those rats, post the mold, but it should be as a collective, right? It can't be one person putting a complaint because that's going to out that person. It needs to be if you have 500 people in the project building, why there's not thousands of complaints?
Well, I mean, there are thousands of complaints. So I'm not really sure, which stories you've heard of, but I know for a fact, um, one of the NYCHA houses in the Bronx, they had over 3,000 complaints that were never addressed. So I think what happens is that the media shows us and gives us stuff that, we absorb, but we really need to do our homework. And usually we're not far removed from the people that are affected. Um, so I do think that there is a collective effort in some areas. In some areas, people like living like that shit.
Yeah, that's right. Because I have family members in housing, right, and a little bit older, different locations, and so forth. So when there's an elevator out, I call, you know, and there's no complaints, and it's
Maybe
just like,
because
what
they
is
feel like
everyone
it'll never
afraid
get
of,
fixed.
huh?
Maybe they feel like it'll never get fixed.
Maybe it won't, but I think that I don't know. It's just very unfortunate what happened, and don't know quite, the city knows about the violations.
Hmm. And what
Nothing's
did
done
they?
about it. So how has 2022 been treating you so far?
So far, I'm very blessed.
Mm.
As you know, I have a weekly show and I'm a co-host on Weekly Rap Gods. My show is called We Ear Hustling. I'm the host. I get to co-host that Weekly Rap Gods, which really jumped me off in terms of doing this. I get to interview great legends, and it's been a great experience. And other doors are opening, and people like yourself are asking me to interview, and I'm excited. There's like no limits for me at this point.
A lot of things that's currently working out for me. I just wondered, wow, why didn't I have this idea 20 years ago, you know? But so on Instagram you have a platform called Newbie The Ear Hustler, right?
Right.
Okay. Are you on any other platforms?
Not at the moment. I mean, I have a YouTube page, but I haven't really done what I'm supposed to do with it yet. Um, I have a couple of things that I'm probably going to pursue, some curation on Spotify, um, and I'm going to see about possibly doing some radio stuff. Um, I've been told that my voice is pretty even keeled and that I'd be good at that. So I think I'm going to try and see that. I would love to be able to quit my 9 to 5 and do this full time.
No, absolutely. I think everyone's trying to do that, right? And it's like you gotta work so hard to push through the people who are just re-uploading other people content, right? But they're getting 15,000 views. It's like, how's that even happening? But you gotta continue to push through that. And one thing I noticed about you, I watched some of your other interviews. You're very good at listening. You're not
I try,
listening just to respond. You're listening to understand the person.
yeah, I try to listen to everybody's perspective, what they've been through, especially on a musical level. You know, a lot of people are able to communicate that way. This is how they pour their soul out. This is how they, you know, express themselves. And the stories behind how they're expressing themselves, how they came to be the creatives that they are very interesting. One of the last ones I had, not with Anissa Strings, but another young lady, openly shared that, she had some mental challenges over the last 2 years during the pandemic. I mean, that's big. Like, you know, mental health has been a large conversation over the past few years. And for Black people, especially, it's not something that we like to talk about. And it has become something that we're beginning to talk about. So I get to know these people on a personal level, and I stay in contact with them because they're good people. I love hearing about them.
So why did you name it Newbie the Ear Hustler?
Well, Newbie's my name, and I like ear hustling. Literally. Like, I would get on Instagram or SoundCloud and I would just listen to the artists that were out. And I'm a music lover, all music. The only thing I don't really listen to is like new age rock and roll, but I like the old stuff. Um, for me, there's so many messages in music, hip hop, R&B, jazz, even instrumentals. If you just sit down and you take a minute to listen, there's a story being told, and I want to know about the story. I used to sing, I stopped singing, and I write. I have newbie music with ASCAP. Um, and so I've always been drawn to the industry. My temperament, however, was not built to work in the corporate environment in the record industry. I really don't have a high tolerance for bullshit. And, coming up in the 80s and the 90s, there's a lot of disrespect going on at the record labels. Um, People, artists coming up and slapping women and, people getting jumped and shit like that. That just wasn't really my MO. Um, and I knew that I would either get my ass kicked or I was beat somebody's ass. So we decided that that wasn't the route. I'm older now and I probably would handle things differently, but then I was a bit rough around the edges.
Yeah, music at that time, if that I really believe, after Biggie and Pac died, everything kind of and then when because I'm into hip hop when Rockefeller broke up, the lyrical content kind of dwindled kind of down, and a
Mm,
lot of the other type of music came in where you don't even understand what they're saying, the mumble rap, right? Which is fine. That's a different category of music, but I don't think that's rap because you can't understand the words they're saying. But
mm,
yeah, music was different at that time because if you say something, they're gonna show up at your next show.
pretty much.
you know,
We got
you,
a lot of keyboard gangsters these days.
even if you're some sort of executive and something like that, high up, even in corporate, you still can't talk like that. Just but now things are modified and so forth, good and bad. So
Mhm.
so um so you used to sing. Do you still sing currently? I know you probably don't sing trying to prefer, not even in the shower, nothing. No.
I mean, around the house, I sing around the house, or if I get something stuck in my head, I sing. I mean, that's always going to be with me. That's part of who I am. And even in terms of the mumble rap, there's some stuff out there that I've actually listened to. Um, and what I found was for me is it may not necessarily be for me, but it's almost like a dialect. Um, if you think about it that way, I think it gives a different feel. Um, you know, there's if you think about it coming up, you had Pig Latin and you had all these shortcuts around words. I think that people have mastered that and made it go with a melody. So I listen. Track Star is one of my favorite songs. Do I like all of it? No, but there's some of it that I can actually understand and enjoy. I try to give it all a chance once. Now I'm not saying that I'm looking for it, but if I
Yeah.
hear it and I'm like, oh, okay, not just the music, not just the beat, but what they're saying. I like that. Track Star was actually really dope. When I'm around the house, whatever's on or whatever's in my head is what I'm humming and singing.
Is hip hop dead?
No, no.
Why do you say
So
no?
here's the thing about hip hop. This is just my personal opinion. Having been around artists from the late 80s all the way up, having worked with Ralph McDaniels of Video Music Box, and being exposed, um, every generation has their idea of what the best hip hop is. And I think that it evolves just like anything else. R&B has evolved. Um, I think the challenge is not letting corporations control how we see it. I think that's the biggest problem is that even now in the day of being able to create your own music and put it up and do what you want to do with it, you still have some sort of label aspect, whether it's somebody who got a distribution deal or whatever it is, there's still that input. There's not enough people saying, hey, this is how we want to do it. Either way, everything has to evolve. And so when I hear a lot of the back and forth with the golden era hip hop artists compared to these artists wanting to, um, be respected, I respect that. They want the younger artists to pay homage. Okay, what does that mean? What does that really mean? What do you want the younger artists to do to show you that they're paying homage to you? And it can vary. I mean, if we look at the 90s artists, who did they pay homage to? Did they pay homage to them? Did all of the hip hop artists in the 90s pay homage to the people that came before them? Not necessarily. So I think it needs to be an open dialogue. Um, but I don't think hip hop is dead. You see, Nas just came out with banger, a banger. Um, you still have your J. Cole's, you still have your Kendrick Lamar's who's going to come out with something and probably be done after that. There's so much talent out here that people focus on the stuff that they don't like. But when you ask somebody what they like, they can't tell you. So,
No, that's true. I think you kind of nailed that. you know, um, is drill rap good for the youth?
no, because drill rap is grounded in something else. And I don't know that these kids are aware. Maybe they are. I mean, a lot of these kids are streetwise. They've been out there, they've been doing their own thing, they've had to survive on their own. But I don't think they understand the history behind drill rap. It's causing a lot of issues, as we can see in the news. Um, and here's where the OGs need to come in. Here's where the OGs need to come in and say, hey, listen, this ain't it. Y'all not ready. You think you know what this is about, but you don't. So it's lack of education about the craft.
I don't like when I hear, because like in the Bronx, drill rap is a lot of them are underage. I thought they was older, and when I hear stuff like that, it's like, where's the parents?
You got to
Where are
understand.
y'all?
I think we got to look at it in all views, in all aspects. So you have the parents that are there, right? You can't control what the kid is doing once he leaves that house. I don't care what you've done. The kid was an A student. I'd leave the house. I'd go put makeup on, knowing damn well I wasn't supposed to have makeup on. You cannot control. You can only hope that whatever it is that you've instilled in them, they're going to use. Now, there's a lot of distractions, and there's a lot of places that don't, a lot of kids who don't have parents that are present, a lot of single family homes. This is what they have. This is family for them out there. It's the same thing as the drug game. It's the same exact thing.
Yeah, never personally liked the drill rap. Now mostly now out of all the drill rappers, I do like someone called D Thing, right? Don't like what he stands for, but when I listen to that artist, he reminds me a lot of the old artists in the '90s, like lyrical.
What is his name?
D Thing.
And you said you don't like the name, but you like him. What is the
No,
name
no, no.
of?
I liked his the way he can. I think if he, I think he's locked up now, but if he pursues his music career, gets his mind right, separate, kind of hard to separate. Because once you live that life, you got to outlive it. But if he separates himself, maybe travel the world and see a different view, when he raps, it reminds me a lot of Jay-Z, a lot of the old rappers, right? That he's actually saying words. He does
Mm,
drill rap, but he's the way he does his wordplay, and you could tell he probably understand the English language a little bit better than he actually realizes compared to a lot of other artists in drill rap. They're saying a lot of stuff that they're actually doing out in the street, which is crazy.
right, right.
So
So let me ask you this: you like him because he's lyrical, but he's a drill rapper. Do you like drill rap? Do you think it's good for the kids?
maybe I don't have a clear understanding of it from what I understand, and I believe it came from Chicago. Well, that's what I
Right.
heard about it when it came from
Mhm.
Chicago. Um, so far, what I've seen and heard, no, I think it's real bad. I think it needs to be dismantled. It needs to be kind of taken away when it's uploaded on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook. It needs to be taken down because
It won't. It
yeah,
won't because they're
no,
incriminating themselves, which is what the people who are watching want them to do.
it's very sad, very unfortunate. So with D thing, this particular artist, I don't the way he is now is not really what I like. But I personally believe I look at people for who they can become. I really believe if he sits down with that pen, get clear, and I think he can go a lot of places.
Okay.
But you can't do that while you're in jail, right?
You can get yourself together. You can get your mind right. Shit, you have number time.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
mean, look at Loon.
yeah. And he came out, and I think he got some sort of he's volunteering with some sort of construction company to learn how to do it so he could do it himself. It's crazy, right?
Sometimes, my father used to say a hard head makes a soft ass. you know. And with that, you learn these heavy lessons. Um, I don't know Loon's situation. I don't know all the specifics. But what I will say is, you have to mind the company you keep. Shit don't last forever. And so you put yourself in a situation where you have to constantly watch your back or do all these other things. It's really not worth it. And I think, shine like a lot of folks learned, you know what I'm saying? And you gotta move right. I mean, we're talking about GDEP. We talk about a lot. Listen,
It's a
you
long
can't be in
list.
this industry and not be educated. It's too like, especially now. Like back then, okay, I could see maybe not, but even then, the onus is on us as an artist or artists to understand the craft and the business side of things. You know what I'm saying? And that's the part where we don't, for some reason, we don't pay attention to the business, but we want the money. It's not going to work out for you.
Yeah, and even though there's countless of artists, I keep saying certain contracts. You hear artists all the time, even big art. Like I like the Locks, but they did a whole campaign,
Right.
let the publishing go, and people just signing that away, and just. But I do like that a lot of the independent artists are just like they don't even want that check, right? They love the it's a lot of hard work, but they rather do that than get signed.
Yeah, because they keep the creative control. They do what they want to do. Their successes and their failures are their own. So you have nobody else to blame at that point. You own it all. You put the legwork in. My only issue with the newer artists, and somebody else said this, and I can't remember who, is that they think that it's not good to do interviews. They don't want to be bothered. They got people managing them that aren't managers, they're friends. And they don't understand the importance of an interview. So it's interesting. It's a whole different generation and a whole different thought process. They have more than we had at our fingertips. They can do whatever they want. They want the big bucks, they want the support, they want the push, but then they don't want to do certain things that come with that. So it's a very interesting dynamic.
Yeah, and I personally I stay away from interviewing young hip hop artists, especially within the city because of they be into some stuff.
Listen, you got to be safe, and nothing is worth that. But what's a shame is that nobody's telling them any different. They should be interviewing. They should be interviewed. But I'm with you. I'm not going to get on an interview with somebody who's ignorant or acting ignorant. So
Yeah, and plus too, of course, I mean, we could get an interview with someone. I don't have to talk about. See, the issue with some of these artists, like people complain when they go to Vlad TV, right? I look at Vlad TV a lot because I kind of implement the style a little bit, but people saying that he's asking questions to self-incriminate, but all their music is just self-incriminate. Like, what else can he? When an artist comes up to Vlad TV or any platform, if they're gonna talk about their craft of work, that's all they put out. He's only talking about what you put on screen, right? Or you record. So if you're talking about all the drugs you sold and all the stuff, the people you shot, and he asks you about, hey, on your song you said you shot 3 people. How you gonna say he's the Fed? You said it though.
I mean, here's the thing. Certain sites, certain places like Vlad and these other interview spots, um, the integrity of the show, to me, is that question, right? So you know that you're going to bring an artist in here and you know you're going to ask a certain question and you kind of know who's going to answer it because you got to remember, especially when it comes to hip hop artists, we're braggadocious. They're braggadocious. So they're going to talk about everything that they've done. Now, the onus falls on the artist because they should know better. You know what I'm saying? And here's the thing, folks at Vlad have been called culture vultures and all this other stuff, but we go there. Good press isn't always, I mean, it just does not show up that way. It doesn't. I mean, it shows up good for like gossip sites and stuff like that. But I watch a Drink Champs interview and listen to Nori overtalk somebody for hours before I watch a Vlad interview.
It's crazy how he be.
I think he just gets excited, you know what I mean? And he's going, and that's who he is, you know what I'm saying? But you still enjoy the interview no matter what.
And he
You know what
knows
I
him personally, right?
mean?
He was in
Yeah.
the industry with them, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he's been in this game for a long time. DJ FN, the same thing. They have something good. They got something going. And you want to watch. Me personally, me watching Vlad TV is akin to me watching academics or something else like that, or like this fit and fresh fit place, Myron Gaines or some. I don't watch that shit. It does nothing for me. To each his own, but it doesn't do anything for me.
The crazy thing about it is that people still, like you said, they still go there. You know,
Right.
they
Knowing.
still go there, and this proves, right. Look at the artist that goes on Vlad TV versus the artist that goes on another interviews and so forth. So this is a difference when you just turn on the camera and then you just start putting the music out there, but you have no training in PR, right? A lot of the artists that sign the major record labels, you will not find, certain people, high up artists that's really in that has a lot of contracts. They're not going to be in front of any interviewer, any camera. They're not going to. I guarantee their PR is sitting right there off camera, telling them what they can and cannot say.
Yeah, I
A lot
mean,
of these untrained people just turn the camera, they get some views, and they just tell their whole life.
right. I mean, and listen, I'm not knocking anybody's hustle, right? And I'm not knocking anybody's desire to get out and do interviews. But there aren't A&Rs out there like there were to help coach and get you ready. And some people may not understand. Some people may not understand, which is a good thing to go to or which isn't. Like, somebody young and innocent can wind up on Vladtv and spill their guts, and 10 years later they're like, damn, why did I go to Vlad? Others may be like, yo, Vlad was the greatest thing for me. I think it's about perspective. I think it really is about what it is that you want, what you want to put out there, how you want people to perceive you. And if you don't know, and you go someplace and it wasn't the right place, you learn. In this day and age of technology, though, the stuff just doesn't go away. So you wind up
Yeah.
explaining yourself. Um, Whatever I say right now is what I mean. I don't have a problem expressing my opinion. People don't have to agree with me. But I'm also mindful that I don't want to bash anyone. I'm not here to judge anybody. Um, but we're all adults. You got to own this shit. If you do it, you own it.
And it's it's very serious, because pretty sure you heard the hip hop police. They're real. I never knew that. I think a few years ago I was like, that's not real. There's real police that will follow artists around, listen to their phone, like they're hip hop police. And um yeah, so do
But you
you think
shouldn't be surprised.
hmm,
You shouldn't be surprised because they've been doing this since God knows when. They've been, listen, the government does what they want to do. They infiltrate where they want to infiltrate. There is no stopping them whatsoever. So, even me talking to you right now, I might get off this call and something pop up on my screen about interviews. It's just the name of the game.
it's crazy, right?
It's just the name of the game. I swear. Um, you know, you think about it, especially for people of color, black people in particular, like you and I. Um, from the days of Martin Luther King, we've been tapped. So the sad part is that some of us aren't educated enough to know that you should not be on social media with guns. You should not be on social media with, a weed farm. You should not be doing certain things on social media. You should not be discussing certain shit. You shouldn't even be discussing certain things on your phone. It's just that simple. The next step is you can't even do Morse code because they got that figured out. You better learn
Mhm.
sign language.
If you talk to any attorney about anything, especially if it's a little bit more, if you're trying to schedule, to meet an attorney, they're gonna say, okay, don't say that over the phone, right? They always gonna tell you, oh no, no, stop, stop, don't tell
Right.
me,
That's
come into the
right.
office,
That's
but you're
right.
2 hours away, drive it, walk it, but don't say it over the phone, and that's
Write it
his
on
line,
the paper
right?
and absolutely. I mean, so I don't think, again, you got a lot of people out here that have come home from jail and they don't know how social media works. And so they put their business out there. You got people who think that they're incognito when they're not. Um, just be smart. You know what I'm saying? Learn to keep things to yourself. You don't have to tell everything to everybody.
One thing I'm really happy and proud of is that during my time growing up, the internet would have been great, obviously, but I'm so glad I cannot turn on the computer and see the things that my parents were doing. All
Really.
the if they was doing anything crazy or crazy, imagine you turn and you see your mom twerking and getting, just crazy stuff happening.
Listen, they
Thank
did it
God
all. They did it all.
they
I have
didn't. They done
doubt,
worse, but
yeah, and I don't think we would want to see it, but yeah, I mean, I'm pretty sure there are parents out there that are long gone that are rolling in their graves right now, like what in the hell is going on earth? You know? Um, But again, to me, it's always about evolution. It's always about evolution. I don't care what it is. You know, when I was coming up, my father called hip hop bebop. I don't want to hear that bebop. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
We listening to hip hop, and some people are calling it mumble rap. You know, it really is about evolving and understanding and giving things an opportunity. Let it breathe for a second before you smack it down. You know?
Yeah, someone told me that it's interesting. Like you see a lot of the artists, a lot of them music, hip hop, are dying, right? Even the local artists are getting shot and so forth. And someone brought up a point to me saying that a lot of them are, they go on live. You got serious issue with people a few blocks away from you, and you go on live. You're showing the street you're at, or hi. A lot of
It's
these, a lot of
pulling
these
back.
young, they're not even ready for war in a sense, because they're falling asleep.
Yeah, I mean, they're falling asleep or they're telling people exactly that, where they are. It's like hustling backwards. Um, you know, you do dirt, you do it by your lonely. You don't get on social media and start bragging. And in person, before social media, you're supposed to do your dirt by your lonely.
Mm.
You're not supposed to be carrying on and running your mouth. But, you know, again, this is about, we're talking about people, we're talking about personalities, we're talking about character, we're talking about a whole bunch of stuff. And you can't predict what a human is going to do. You just can't.
I'm actually shocked. I'm actually shocked. A few years ago, I was actually shocked. I can't believe the stuff that happens on live that people do or say or just crazy stuff. Do you believe hip hop? Do you believe we have learned from Biggie and Tupac? Do you think we learned the lesson from that?
Whew, that's a good question. I think the generation that was around when that happened learned. If you notice, there hasn't been an East Coast, West Coast beef in God knows when. I was on a clubhouse recently where Corrupt was talking, and I was proud of him because he just matured. He grew. You know what I'm saying? There's still some old school head that's got beef in his head about this shit that's been long gone. But I don't think um, the newer generation even has a grasp. Their fight and their issues are totally different from what was going on with Big and Pac. Totally different, you
Now,
know?
Corrupt can rap a long. He can freestyle for a long time, and he's not
Mm-hmm.
mumbling when he raps. Corrupt,
No,
for a
not.
West Coast guy, he is definitely lyrical. It's Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
he'll be there for 20 minutes rapping nonstop.
Mm-hmm. And you know what's sad? You know, to hear people eating, just like you said, man, you know, he's lyrical. He can, you know, freestyle and da da da. You know, a lot of hip hop artists are very articulate. They're very intelligent. And I guess the persona overshadows that. But I mean, highly articulate. Like talk about things that you would not even know they knew about. So I think a lot of hip hop artists are slept on. And that could be again because that's the persona, that's the image that they want to
That's what they
portray.
get paid for.
Right. You know, but again, you know, eventually people see through that. If you're not a gangster, don't portray yourself as a gangster
From
because
the
you're going to be
beginning.
tried.
From the beginning, look at one of the biggest guys out there is Drake.
Right.
Never try to be a tough guy from the beginning, right?
Hmm.
And yeah, so
He's been
um
successful.
extremely
But here's the other
consistent.
thing about Drake that other hip hop artists don't have or may not have had. He was an actor before he became Drake, right? He played a guy in a wheelchair. You know, like he's got sort of an edge on performing, period. So, you know, I'm not surprised at Drake's success. You know what I'm saying? Because he knows what to do with it. It's just that simple. He's got, you know, the experience.
And I think a lot of people have to remember that, like Puff Daddy did a video showing that people think that he drinks a lot. Most of his liquor you see him drink is water. Dwayne Johnson did a challenge with his new vodka. maybe like 2 years ago. He was drinking it, and then he later released that was all water. But it's sad the way he was betraying for other people to do the challenge. But a lot of these people that's very successful, they're very successful not because of the company, the record label. They're successful because they really put their head down and just did their work.
Mm-hmm.
You know. So, do you think it's hard to separate the music from the artist? Like, if I see a movie, if I don't like the actor, I'm not going to see the movie. You know, artists like I guess like you could name like R. Kelly and stuff. Is it can you separate the and still listen to your music even though you don't particularly like something you heard about whatever?
For me personally, um, let me say this, and R. Kelly is a good example. I'm disappointed, disgusted, um, but I can't take away what he's contributed. So his contribution to music and the stuff that we've listened to, um, genius. That doesn't negate the fact that he's got an issue. That doesn't negate the fact that he's got a problem. So for me, I can separate the two and still listen to the music. You know, would I buy anything right now? No. I will listen to what I have, but I'm not putting my money into it. And that's the difference for me. There are people who, especially women, who don't want to believe R. Kelly did what he did or has done what he's done. But if you notice any artists that are like really on like genius levels, they all got issues. Prince had issues. Michael Jackson had issues. A lot of them had issues, varying issues, but they got issues. You know, the more eccentric you are, from what I can see, the more damn issues you have. And a lot of that comes from being or feeling like you're entitled because you're so good at what you do. Attorneys are like that on a regular basis. They are treated as special people. Why? Same thing with doctors, because they've gone through years and years of education, and they feel like, damn it, I can do what I want to do, but they don't know how to turn a doorknob. So I've dealt with that all my life. My career has been, up until recently, working around attorneys or the legal environment. And brilliant, brilliant minds, common sense out the window. So when we start talking about artists and the creative side, you look at Jimi Hendrix, you look at all of these artists that were super successful. They all suffered from some sort of mental issue or self entitlement issue. Just as simple as that.
Yeah, like they say, the most successful business owners top, narcissists. Like not I know that word been thrown around a lot, but a lot of the people that are really up there on level, they have to have it's because what they're doing is not normal. What they're creating, the stuff that they're creating. So in their prime, right? Whitney Houston or Mariah Carey? Which one in their prime?
Whitney Houston.
Whitney Houston, okay. Yeah, because I was having this debate and my cousin, and I was like, let me put Whitney Houston on when she hit the high note, and you tell me who But they're both obviously, yeah, obviously really great. Who's your artist? Okay, I'm listening.
So I was going to say about Whitney and Mariah is that first of all, they're two different singers. They're two
Yeah,
different types of singers. Um, you would never get, in my opinion, the same soul sound from Mariah that you would from Whitney. You would not get from Whitney the high notes that Mariah could hit. So they're two different types of artists, and they're dope in their own way. But I grew up with Whitney. You Give Good Love, I must have sang the hell out of that 100 times. So for me, it's always going to be Whitney. Um, I people beg to differ, but that's just my opinion. And you're going to ask me about current artists?
yeah. So what do you? So no, not current artist. So let's talk a little bit about health, right? So especially with black people, men, heart disease, cancer, stroke, diabetes, and fatty liver, HIV is really big, right? What are you currently doing to stay relatively healthy?
Eating normal, drinking water. I mean, I probably read more labels than I have in my lifetime, because everything has all this sodium content. But in the last couple of years, I have really paid more attention to what's going in my body, because it affects you not just physically but mentally as well. And I think, honestly, that's what's killing us is the food.
Yeah, this whole thing that's going around, the jab. I mean, not the jab, but the cause of it, whatever. Um, they failed to mention. They just recently mentioned that um, you need to take your vitamins, drink water, and be more healthy. You
When
need
you,
that.
when you say they just recently mentioned that,
CDC recently mentioned that the
we
main
knew
cause. Yeah.
we knew that because as soon as it happened, people started saying, at least I could tell in the Black community, all the herbalists and the holistic people that started coming out the woodwork talking about elderberry, magnesium, sea moss, zinc, vitamin C, vitamin E. you know it started coming from the beginning. Boil this, boil that, fresh ginger. So the CDC may be just saying something now, but we knew better.
Yeah, and there's a lot of people, like, even I have family members that, if it didn't come from the news, they're not following it, and that kind of hurt me, because I lost a few family members due to the last year, but I think for the
Yeah.
most part, they're overweight. If you're overweight, if you have high blood pressure for extended amount of time, you're prone to stroke. Eventually, you will have a stroke. And if the news doesn't say it, they don't believe it. Um, what do you think about let's look at black women, right? Relatively, do you feel like black women take care of their physical appearance in overall? If you was a man, I'll be asking about the men, but
I can't speak on that because every woman is different. Like,
of course, yeah,
so if let's talk about social media.
yeah.
Of course, there are women out there that are really putting themselves together. I don't care if it's fake ass, fake tits, wig, whatever it is. They look good. That's what makes them feel good. Are they washing their ass? Are they brushing their teeth? I don't know. They could just be getting up and putting all that shit on and calling it a day. You know what I'm saying? Now you got women who, are like me. We get up, we wash our ass, we brush our teeth. My hair may be sticking up in the morning, like, I mean, I don't that question is almost self-hating. And so I can't really contribute to that conversation because every black woman out there, I'm sure, is trying to do their best to look good and feel good.
No, of course, but the overall there's a high percentage of our people that have excuse me, have health conditions. That's why I was asking you.
In the
Um,
health sense, I think that more black women now probably are more aware of what is good for them and what is not good for them, what to intake in their body than they ever were. Because I don't think there was this much information being thrown at us. We may not necessarily want to know about it, but we may not have a choice because it's getting thrown at us every day. You know what I'm saying?
yeah,
If you're on social media, you see somebody who's saying, hey, take this detox. Hey, try this. Hey, here's a waist trainer if you want to flatten your stomach.
no, wow, yeah,
You know what I mean? So there's all these things out here that are available to us. So I think that health wise, I think we're more aware. Um, that I think that would be the best way to put it is we're more aware.
yeah. Because what I started to do is that I started to hold men that I know personally accountable. Personally, if I know you, or if I even for your acquaintance, if you're not taking care of your child, I gotta talk to you.
Mm.
You gotta take care of your child.
Mm-hmm.
I even encourage, if you have a brother, you have a uncle, you have people in your family that's just not taking care of the kid, you may gotta take them in a room and um deal with them a little bit,
Mm-hmm.
a lot. We gotta start holding each other accountable. And if you can't really hold that person accountable, like my older brother, I told you what happened the way my nephew was born, I can't hold him accountable because he doesn't care.
Mm.
He's on that himself. He doesn't care. He does not care unless it's about money. So I can't hold him accountable,
Mm-hmm.
right? But there are a lot of men out there that are not involved in a child's life, and kids are out here throwing their lives away. So I try to hold men accountable. I try to tell other people hold other men accountable. If us as men, you see you have a friend that's overweight, you can encourage him a little. You don't have to be down his throat every day, but you can
Mm-hmm.
encourage them a little bit. Let's encourage each other. How can we get better if everyone is just saying, "Well, I'm gonna do my own thing. Don't tell me nothing." I'm not talking about a stranger, but I'm talking your personal, people in your circle.
Yeah, people have to want to make the change. They have to want to feel different. They want to have to feel better. Um, they have to want it. You can't make them. And honestly, I'm all for, that push, and I'm all for that collective conversation. But at the end of the day, the individual has to want to do it, and they won't until they're ready. It's like, quitting smoking. You're not going to stop until you're ready. Same thing with drinking. It's the same premise. People have to want to make the change.
Yeah, and every time I hear about a child being molested by the stepfather or something like that, it's like where's us as men on the men's side, we got to step it up. And a lot of men, I think a lot of men recently have been a lot more aware of themselves, right? I'm pretty sure you heard of the manosphere, the red pill, right?
Hmm.
So basically what that is just there's a lot of different conversations, but men are now communicating with each other
Hmm.
about stuff. And I
Hmm.
think that's because women always had a space where they communicate with each other, but now men are actually expressing themselves. Some are a little crazy, right? Like fresh and fit, right? But at least but as a woman, you're seeing these men that's out there,
Well,
their thought
let me
process.
let me say this. So there is naturally amongst us, um, there is the tribal nature, right, to bond. And in general, people bond over different things. And I think that, Black men have become a little more aware about where they may want to be and where they should be. When we talk about that show, that's nothing but self hatred. And really, the behavior that I have seen reminds me of serial killers. See, because, if you think about Norman Bates, right? He was in a relationship basically with his mom's, right? But he didn't like women, right? He didn't like women. There are a lot of men out here that say they love women and they don't like them. They actually hate them. And it's a reflection of who they are and their mama. It's a reflection of the women in their life or lack thereof. And it's also a cultural thing because that gentleman is Sudanese. Culturally, that could be a whole different ball game. So, just in general, I think there's the opportunity for men and women to grow, to learn from each other, to be communal. It's just, can they be? Because, see, there's too many people that, want to run the show and not enough Indians, if you get what I'm saying. So, collectively, it's good to see brothers on social media dressed up in suits and stuff like that, but that's really European standard shit. That's not us. You know what I'm saying? Now, when I look at the, videos with Afro beats going on and those men are dressed in tribal gear, that moves me. You know what I'm saying? Don't get me wrong. There's nothing wrong with a man in a suit, but that's some European shit. That's not our shit.
No, of course, and I just try my best to on my part, whoever I have that's close to me, we all
Hmm.
got to do better. If you're not,
Absolutely.
especially with these kids, man, you're a man and you're not taking. I don't want to hear it. You're not taking care of your child. You're not. And it doesn't take much, right? I mean, there's a lot of free stuff. I spent time with my nephew. He had a blast. We took him to the park. Just a lot of dirt. Take this football. Just throw. He'll find something to do. Chase the ducks and stuff. But we gotta start being there for the kids and hold people accountable. Now, when I say hold people accountable, I'm trying to do. It's a lot for me to get myself together. So I can't hold you accountable all the time, right? Because I got to
Hmm.
fight my own demons. You know.
Absolutely.
So let
Um,
me ask you, right? Who would you say is the closest to you?
the closest person to me is deceased. Um,
Okay.
but my fiance would be the next closest person to me.
Okay.
Um, and then, of course, my sisters.
Okay.
And we have to hold each other accountable.
God forbid, right? Let's say God forbid your fiance passed away. What is one thing you will regret you didn't do or say more of, or.
Nothing. You know why? Because I think on an everyday basis, my actions, even without words, um, indicate how I feel. Um, I have no regrets whatsoever. I never have, never will. And I think that there's a time and a place for everything. So for me, I've said it, I've done it, I've acted on it. I don't have, wouldn't have any regrets. There's nothing that I would have felt like was left out.
What is one thing you want to add to the Black community that you believe would help?
Self-esteem. We're beautiful people. We are strong people. We are resilient. I want people to understand that. I wish more people would in the Black community just take ownership for some of the things that they can control and run with it. There's so much out here. There's so much, and this has been a conversation in the last 5 or 6 years. It has been a big conversation. Generational wealth. There's money to be had out here. Money. More money available to us than we've ever had. We have to figure out how to get a hold of it. You have to read, you have to research. The problem with this technology age is everybody wants things like this, instant gratification. Don't work like that. You're lucky if it does. That means you hit the lotto.
I mean, you hear all the time. A lot of people that are really, really successful. You ask them how long did it take, and they'll take 20 years. Seven failed businesses. 20 years later, three divorces later, right?
Right. But they kept going,
Yeah,
you
they
know?
definitely kept going. Yep.
Right. They
So,
didn't let it stop them.
what is something you want to take away from the Black community you think will help?
Wait, say that question again.
What would you like to take? That's what you would like to add. What would you like to take away?
The lack of self-esteem. We are strong people. And like I said a few minutes ago, self-esteem needs to be injected and the lack thereof needs to be removed. We have a lot to offer.
If you were stranded, would you rather be stranded in Antarctica or a desert?
Antarctica.
Yeah, most people choose a desert, but I'm pretty sure until they get there,
That's
you
right.
know. So, so 2000, we're in 2022. What can your supporters expect from you?
Just more great content, more conversations. Like I said, I'm going to be working on doing some curation for Spotify. Um, I'm just looking to bring more great content, more talent, and my show isn't just about singers. It's about producers. It's about drummers, guitarists, established artists, up and coming artists. So, you know, perfect example was Elmine. Almin is a Sudanese young man who lives in the UK. Questlove found him on the internet on Instagram, and I saw it on Questlove's page. He went from, I don't know, a few hundred followers to like 15,000 followers in a day. And I reached out to him, and he and I talked, and I was his first interview ever. Those are the types of moments I want to be able to continue to give the audience. I had a great upright bassist yesterday, Anissa Strings, super dope. Upright bassist, pianist, masters in jazz, singer, just ridiculous. Those are the types of people that I want to continue to bring on the show. So that's what people can expect.
And how do you want them to support you?
Engage. Just engage. Share. Share that you saw this great interview, this exclusive interview. Um, you know, I think everybody's trying to monetize this situation with social media. I am too at some point. But right now, I want to get quality listeners. I want organic followers. I don't want a bunch of trolls. I don't want the Bitcoin people. I know a lot of that comes with it, but believe it or not, I spend a lot of time vetting who's following me. And I engage the folks. And I've given away Daru Jones drumsticks. Do you know who Daru Jones is?
No, I don't know. Maybe I've seen
So,
them, but yeah.
Daru Jones is one of the greatest drummers of our generation. He also works with hip hop artists as well as rock bands. Um, Pharoah Monch, it just Pharoah Monch comes to mind because he's in a group, so to speak, called 13, I believe, with Daru Jones, Pharoah Monch, and another gentleman. Um, I say that to say that I purchased a pair of his drumsticks, ran a quick contest, and gave them away.
Oh wow.
Right. I'm not interested in a bunch of nonsense. Like, I'm really about the music. I'm not a gossip site. I'm not into any of that. Which is why when you asked me in the beginning how much of this personal stuff can we talk about, on a scale of 1 to 10, I said 1, because it's really not about me. It's about me getting the artists on that people will be interested in watching and listening to.
So there you have it. Newbie the Ear Hustler, right?
Yes, thank you so much for having me on. I appreciate you.
No problem. It was a blessing to have you. And any way I could possibly help you. If you see someone on my on my page that you think you want to hook up with an interview, I can definitely set that up. And if I can
Okay.
help you any kind of way, just message me, call, let me know, and I'll do everything I can.
I appreciate that. And I'm following a couple of people that you've interviewed. So you're doing your thing, and I appreciate you. And listen, maybe I'll come back and we can talk some more about stuff.
Absolutely. All right. You have a blessed evening. Okay.
You too. Thank you,
All right.
AR.
Take care. All right. Bye.